Welcome back. All right, so yesterday I talked about Mickey Redmond, a beloved broadcaster for the Detroit Red Wings. Now we will talk about Butch Goring, a broadcaster for the New York Islanders. I figured, sure, why not? I've been wanting to do a Butch Goring video for a while. Here we are. He was the number 51 draft pick back in 1969, and right out of the draft, he plays in the NHL. The 69-70 season, plays 59 games with the Kings, 13 goals, 23 assists, 36 points. He was fifth in Calder voting. One thing about Butch Goring, I think he was better offensively than I realized when I was a kid and started watching hockey, but we'll get into that. And then his ability to show what he could do offensively was definitely handicapped that second year because he had a bout with mono. Mononucleosis is one of those things that people often make fun of. It's called the kissing disease. That's not the only way you can catch it, just letting people know. And so 19 games, 2 goals, 5 assists, 7 points for Butch Goring. When you have mono, you don't have the energy. So since it deprives you of energy, you're not going to be out there skating. You're not going to be in the NHL. But then he roars back with a vengeance in 71-72, plays 74 games, 21 goals, 29 assists, 50 points. So his first 20-goal season, first of what would be many straight 20-goal seasons, quite a few actually. And in 72-73, his numbers get even better. He only played 67 games, but 28 goals, 31 assists, 59 points. The problem for Goring is the Kings aren't very good. And that's the reality of it during most of his time there. But he would be rewarded after he goes to a different team. 73-74, he plays 70 games with the Kings, 28 goals, 33 assists, 61 points. Finally plays in the playoffs, had 1 assist in 5 games. He's third in Lady Byng voting. Butch Goring, one of the Lady Byng favorites every year. In 74-75, he played 60 games, 27 goals, 33 assists, 60 points. He had no points in 3 playoff games. Again, the Kings just not very good. When they get to the playoffs, they're out relatively early. He's not able to show much here. But again, that year he finishes 4th in Lady Byng. 75-76, 80 games, 33 goals, 40 assists, 73 points. So remarkable jump in points there, but I mean he played 20 more games as well. In the playoffs, 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points in 9 games. Again, he is 4th in Lady Byng voting. 76, 77, 78 games played, 30 goals. So that's the second straight 30-goal season of what would be four in a row. 55 assists, which was 10th in the NHL for 85 points. So really solid run there for him. In the playoffs, he had 7 goals, 5 assists for 12 points in 9 games. And again, 4th in Lady Byng voting. So not quite a finalist, but I wouldn't imagine that the awards were given nearly as much attention as they are now in terms of who finishes where in the voting. So 77-78, he plays all 80 games that year, 37 goals, which was a career high, 36 assists, 73 points. In the playoffs, just the 2 games, no points. He wins the Masterton Trophy for dedication to the sport, and he wins the Lady Byng as well. It's the only Lady Byng he wins, which I'm kind of surprised by. I swear he had more, but he doesn't. So 78-79 in 80 games, 36 goals, 51 assists, 87 points, which again, that's a career high for him. No points in 2 games in the playoffs. He was 8th in Lady Byng voting that year. So the LA Kings looking to shake things up. 79-80, he plays 69 games, 20 goals, 48 assists, 68 points. And this is the original, the big trade deadline acquisition. And trade deadline became a big deal starting with this trade. March the 10th, the LA Kings make an error. They trade Butch Goring in exchange for Billy Harris and Dave Lewis. Billy Harris, decent forward. Dave Lewis, a defensive defenseman, who would go on to have a coaching career as well after. But Butch Goring goes to the New York Islanders, and the rest is history. 12 games, 6 goals, 5 assists, 11 points. But one thing with Goring is, now that he's in New York, he is more of a support player. They don't need him to be a top guy. He is there for center depth, and it works. In the playoffs, 21 games, 7 goals, 12 assists, 19 points. Butch Goring gets himself a Stanley Cup. 80-81, his first full season with the Islanders, 78 games played, 23 goals, 37 assists, 60 points. So you can see his scoring has dropped off, but who cares? Because in the playoffs, 18 games, 10 goals, 10 assists, 20 points. He wins a Conn Smythe Trophy, Stanley Cup. He's 7th in Lady Byng, and he's 10th in Selke voting. So, yeah, and I'm also kind of surprised that in terms of Selkies, he wasn't given more consideration. That's the only time he's top 10. which honestly it does. It surprises me because what I remember from when I was watching hockey, he was one of their shutdown guys when needed. 81, 82, 67 games, 15 goals, 17 assists, 32 points. So yeah, the offense has fallen off. Who cares? In the playoffs, 19 games, 6 goals, 5 assists, 11 points. Third straight Stanley Cup. You're not worried about the offensive numbers if you're winning, right? So 82, 83, 75 games, 19 goals, 20 assists, 39 points. So close to 20 goals in the playoffs. 20 games, 4 goals, 8 assists, 12 points. Fourth straight Stanley Cup. Taking out the upstart Edmonton Oilers, who I think were the toughest challengers they had of their Stanley Cup finals, maybe outside of Philadelphia. And then in 84, things changed a little bit in the playoffs, but during the regular season, not bad numbers from Goring. 71 games, 22 goals, 24 assists, 46 points. He adds a goal, 5 assists, 6 points in 21 games in the playoffs. The Islanders go all the way to the final. They have the rematch with the Oilers. The Oilers win their first Stanley Cup that year. But it definitely took it out of the Islanders. And the following season, 84-85, 29 games for Goring, 2 goals, 5 assists, 7 points, and they waive him. He's on waivers, and on January the 8th, the Boston Bruins decide, we'll take Butch Goring. Sure, we could use some help down the middle. So after he's claimed on waivers, 39 games, 13 goals, 21 assists, 34 points. The offense comes back. Now, in the playoffs, he adds a goal and an assist for 2 points in 5 games. Boston doesn't go that far, but still, the offense is back. However, he opts to retire. Ends up with 1,107 games played in his career, 375 goals, which is good, 513 assists, also pretty good, 888 points. So when you look back at the 70-71 season, he probably would have had another at least 40 points. You would think if he played the full season and been healthy, he would have had 928 points with an extra 40 points there. But hey, if he had stayed in LA, he might have ended up with over 1,000 points, but he wouldn't have had the Stanley Cups. So I think he'll take the Stanley Cups over the points. In the playoffs, 134 games played, 38 goals, 50 assists, 88 points. He had 102 penalty minutes in his career. 1,107 games, and he had 102 penalty minutes. His career high in penalty minutes was 78-79 with the Kings when he had 16 penalty minutes. So pretty remarkable to be able to play that solid of a game, to play that many minutes and not take penalties. There were plenty of seasons in here where he had 1 penalty. 2 penalty minutes in a season. Yep. And just absolutely remarkable. Another interesting factoid here, too, is that the Islanders were really after Darryl Sittler. They wanted Darryl Sittler out of Toronto. They couldn't make it happen. And Butch Goring out of LA was kind of the backup plan. Like, well, if we can't get Sittler. And just thinking about what Darryl Sittler being added to the Islanders could have meant, but would it have meant those 4 straight Stanley Cups? Because Goring was exactly what they needed. Slotted in, it was perfect. So if they added Sittler from Toronto, would they have still won 4 straight Stanley Cups? It's a debate we'll never know the answer to. Now, of course, one thing that I have to mention, because if I don't, people are going to be like, I can't believe you didn't mention his helmet. Yeah, he wore the same helmet he had been wearing since he was 12 years of age. And it is somewhat comical. There's also some debate about whether or not the playoff beard originated with him. Mike Bossy said it did, but other players from the Islanders said no, there were guys in the 70s that did it. But he definitely helped popularize it. The playoff beard as we know it, the most famous ones would be Butch Goring and Lanny McDonald, for me personally anyways. Playoff beards are fun. The one that I thought was funny was I was reading, they said, well, he started that with the Islanders. Well, how would you know? Maybe he started growing a playoff beard in LA, and they were eliminated 3 days later before the peach fuzz was able to be seen by the cameras. So maybe he was growing the beard all along. So he coached the Bruins starting in 85-86. He got fired early in the 86-87 season. So he was a coach the year after he was done as a player. He loves hockey, loves being around the National Hockey League. And the Islanders retired his number, the number 91, in 2020. No word yet as to whether or not they would retire Tavares' number 91 after he's done as well. We'll see. I'm guessing no. But Butch Goring's number being retired is good because without Goring, without that trade deadline acquisition, maybe we don't get the Islanders dynasty as it was. I'm not saying they wouldn't have won any cups, but maybe they don't win 4 in a row. Goring was a huge part of that, especially the 81 run where they beat the Minnesota North Stars in the Stanley Cup final. So there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.